We have a very interesting topic. The Middle East, Israeli-Gaza conflict, implications for Nigeria's security. Our guest tonight is Mr. Onkwoto Nwezigwe, PhD. Dr. Nwezigwe is a director, Nigeria Civil War and Genocide Research Network. He's a research fellow, Institute of African Studies, University of Nigeria, Nsukka. Dr. Nwezigwe is also an expert in ethno-religious conflict with particular focus on Black Africa and the Middle East. Dr. Nwezigwe, you are welcome to our program tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Elomba of the Elomba television film.
Mr. Nwezigwe, let's establish your expertise to discuss this topic. Can you give us a brief background of your research work on the topic we have tonight?
Yes, I did my PhD on Black Africa, Middle East relation, with particular reference to the Middle East conflicts. And that was actually, and we tried to look at the background history of the Middle East conflicts, dragging it up to African involvement, the Middle East diplomacy, the conflict of diplomacy between Israel and the Middle East Arab countries, at a point trying to corner Africa to buy. So
what is the background? Can you give us the background to the Middle East conflict, please?
Well, I can say really that the story of Middle East conflict is quoted in a commingle of devious falsehoods constructed on the layers of impeccable truths. And what do I mean by that? It's a story that has been riddled with propaganda, mostly against the state of Israel. We all know, because there are issues that come over there, the issue of occupied territories, whose territories are being occupied, and who are the people being, occupying the territory. That is first. Secondly, I want to state emphatically that the idea of Palestinian states was the creation of the British colonial administrators of the Middle East, which the Arabs never accepted until after the 1966 Six-Day War, 1967 Six-Day War. That was when the idea of Palestinian conflict came up. Thirdly, the present Arab states, Arab countries, from Saudi Arabia to Iraq, were the creation of British, European colonial powers. It never existed. They never existed. The idea of Arabism, Arab nationalism, was even the creation of Antonius and a Christian Arab who coined the idea Arabism. So let me start that before 1940, before the First World War, the entire Middle East was a province of Ottoman Empire. There was nothing, there was no Saudi Arabia, there was no Syria, there was no Jordan. In fact, the whole thing started when the Sheriff of Hijaz was the western part of the present Saudi Arabia, under the control of Ottoman Empire. And the Ottoman Empire, the Ottoman Sublime Porte, that is the emperor of the Sultan Empire. So used to appoint a sheriff in charge of Mecca and Medina, the Muslim areas, who now take charge of refuge of the pilgrimages. While the Najd is Sultanate of Najd is being run by the Sultan Abdul Aziz Ibn Saud. In 2016, British met Ibn Ali Hussein, the sheriff appointed the Ottoman Empire, to join them to fight the Ottoman Empire in the First World War. That if he succeeds, they will give him the entire Middle East Arab nation as his own nation. That was why he now joined. And he was granted independence as the Kingdom of Hijaz in 1916. The British defeated Ottoman Turks, but the League of Nations decided to share the territories between France and Britain, with France taking charge of the present Syria and Lebanon, Britain taking charge of Iraq and the Hijaz Kingdom and the Palestine and Transjordan. Then in 1924, Ibn Saud of the Najd Sultanate invaded Hijaz and conquered Hijaz and united it in 1925 as the present Saudi Arabia. So Saudi Arabia never existed before 1925. In compensation of the loss of Hijaz, the British government now appointed these three sons of King Ali Ibn Hussein of Hijaz, appointed as the kings of Jordan, the kings of Syria, and the kings of the king of Iraq. The Syrian king, Iraqi king were later overthrown by military coups, while the Jordanian king now remained. So that's the situation there. The Jews, if you look historically, for those who are familiar with the Bible, you find that the Jews were dispersed from the Holy Land as far back as 70 year before Christ. That was when the Romans invaded and destroyed the Second Temple and drove the Jews.
You mean, did you mean 70 CE or 70 BCE?
70 CE, 17 years after Christ. The Romans, because the Jews revolted in 66 AD, drove out the Roman governors, and the Romans decided to stage a comeback and defeated the Jews after laying siege. That was when they bought the Second Temple, and it was this Second Temple that was burnt that the Muslims, when they emerged from their jihad, from Muhammad jihad in 622 AD, it is on this particular Second Temple that the present Al-Aqsa Mosque is built. So the Al-Aqsa Mosque, the Muslims are claiming today, is constructed on the foundation of the Second Temple. And this is where the Jews are claiming part of the temple, and the Arabs are saying it is their second holiest temple. So
okay, let's establish these historical facts one after the other.
Yeah.
Before 1914,
yes,
who were the inhabitants of today's Palestine?
Yes, the inhabitants of today's Palestine were mainly Arabs with some few Israelis who were there and who have started coming back with the help of Ottoman Turks, because the Ottoman Turk granted both the Jews and all religions, what we could say, instituted freedom to worship and giving them separate part of administration and rules. So they were occupied by some elements of Jews and Arabs, because at that time, remember, the Turkish Empire conquered Arab jihadists, Arab invaders who actually Islamized the Middle East. So the Turks, Ottoman Turks, occupied, just conquered them. So they became the administrators. So
okay, sorry, because I wanted to start this discussion from 1914, but I discovered that in trying to answer the questions of 1914, you are going back again to Ottoman Empire. So I think let us start first of all from the events of 66 CE. You have stated that in 66 CE, that is 66 years after the death of Jesus Christ, the Romans revolted against, the Jews revolted against the Roman Empire.
The Jews. Yes.
The Jews revolted against the Roman Empire in 66 CE.
Yes.
Then in 70 CE, the Romans returned and destroyed Jerusalem. Well, they burnt down the temple.
Yes.
They burnt down the temple, and the Jews were scattered all over, basically all over the world.
Yes.
Okay, so after the event of 70 CE,
yes,
who were the next inhabitants of the Palestine land, say up till 1,000 years after Jesus Christ? Let's establish that.
Yeah, after that time, you see, there was a massive Arab invasion. You know,
around what year? Around what year?
In 622 AD, when Muhammad launched.
Yes, no, I want to establish. If you don't know, we pass it. But my question is, before Muhammad, because you are jumping 600 days afterwards. Okay. After 70 CE, who were the next inhabitants of Palestine land after 70 CE?
Yes, the Jews were there. Remember, it was some of them that were deported. The Arameans were there. The Carthaginians were there. The Lebanese, the Syrians were there. And remember,
so let's say that after 70 CE, a lot of people who were then under the Roman Empire inhabited Jerusalem.
Yes.
Up till yes.
Most of them Christianized, because by that time Christianity has begun to develop, and especially after the conversion of Emperor Constantine in 33
around 350 years, after Christ. Yes.
Yes, he was converted, and so gradually, the Middle East became Christianized up to Saudi Arabia, and at that time it was a dichotomy between Jews and Christians.
So, who were the next major inhabitants of the Palestine land around the demise of the Roman Empire? Let's get to that level.
Okay, when the Roman Empire, remember, the Roman Empire was conquered by the Islamists. After the conquest of the Roman Empire in Christianity, Roman Empire became Christianized. And when Islam came, Islam became the comforting force. Are you getting me? At that time, the whole Egypt, the whole North Africa, were Christianized. Islam came and gradually...
We accept that. No, we accept that. We are not discussing religion. My point is, around that Palestine land, that Middle East,
yes,
around the year 600 CE, before Muhammad started his conquest, who were the inhabitants of Palestine?
Okay. The Jews, remember, not all the Jews were taken away.
You have said that before, but the Jews were scattered. Who were the major, who were the dominant force?
No, the dominant force at that time were described as Roman citizens. Roman citizens were defined, it's just like when you talk of a citizen of American citizens, they are multi-ethnic. You had the Greeks who were there before the Romans. They became Roman citizens. You have the Jews who became Roman citizens. You have the Armenians who became Roman citizens. You have the Assyrians who became Roman citizens. You have the Chaldeans who are actually the owners of present Iraq, who also became Roman citizens. So
brilliant. So around what year did the Ottoman Empire conquer Jerusalem?
Yes, well, it's a process. It became with
around what year? Around what year?
It's in the Middle Ages. Remember,
around what the Middle Ages? Give us what year? Around what year the Middle Ages?
It's you can say around the let me say the Seljuk 17th century. It should be around the 12th century. Because
so Saladin, okay, good. Okay, go ahead.
Saladin, who actually came as the Seljuk Turks, because the Ottoman Turks took over from the Seljuk Turks. Saladin now conquered Jerusalem in 12th century. And remember, before Saladin conquered Jerusalem, the Crusaders had driven the Muslims from Jerusalem. So Saladin came, the Crusaders because Europe now organized crusades to reconquer Jerusalem. which they did. And later, Saladin of the Seljuk came up and drove the Crusaders, that European Crusaders, European Christians, who then were ruling Jerusalem, drove them out in 12th century AD. And it was when he drove them out that another wave of Muslims now came up. The present
So around what year did they, so that we make progress, around what year did Muslims conquer Jerusalem?
The Muslims conquered Jerusalem immediately, few years after the conquest of Hijaz, that's the part of Western Saudi Arabia, Mecca. Because from that point, remember, Muhammad was a trader, a driver with with his wife, moving between Mecca and Jerusalem as a trader. So immediately after the conquest of Mecca, the next point, few years after 622 AD, was Jerusalem. So Jerusalem was conquered in the 7th century.
We want to establish one point that
yes,
after the destruction of Jerusalem in 70 CE,
yes,
the Palestine land came under Roman control.
yes,
and
it
that
was
doesn't mean that.
Palestine. Yeah, it was
Yes,
Palestine.
and so then I eventually
yes,
the Ottoman Empire also conquered Jerusalem. Then eventually Muslims also conquered Jerusalem and inhabited the land. And that was when they built the Al-Aqsa Mosque on the place where the second temple was situated.
Yes.
Now let's now jump to 1914 as we move into the 20th century.
Yes.
Around 1900, who were the major inhabitants of Jerusalem? The Palestine lands.
Yes, the major inhabitants of Jerusalem. You talk about, you have more Arab population. You have Jewish population there. You have, and when you're talking of Arabs, then Arab is a loose term because it's also included Christians. That is descendants of original Christians. They were also known as Arabs today. Like if you go to Egypt, you find that about 30% of Egyptian population are Christian, Coptic Christians. They're all named Arabs. You go to Lebanon, the Lebanon has a majority of Christian population. They're all called Arabs. Even in Syria, the Assyrian church members are called Arab. They're all Christians. In Iraq, members of the Chaldean church.
Okay, so when the British Empire, British Empire were controlling Palestine, who were the inhabitants of that? Is what year did the British Empire leave Palestine and give them independence?
British, it's not a question of giving them independence. Britain did not give them independence. The point is that in 1947, the United
Before
Nations,
1947, say around 1914, who did the League of Nations give authority to live in Palestine? The League of Nations.
So not to live, to manage Turkish man. He gave Britain and France. France was given Syria, and France used its own idea to create the Christian, predominantly Christian part of Syria to become what is today Lebanon.
All right, let's now move to the creation of Israel. And the nation of Israel was created in 1948.
Yes, it was created in 1948. Under the point is that in 1947, already there were crises. The Jews already trying to secure their land, which was declared to them by the Balfour Declaration of 2nd November 1917, after the conquest of Jerusalem by the Allied forces. There was then the Balfour Declaration that promised the Jews that they will return, they will be granted their safe home in Palestine. Then from that moment, the Arabs started also developing. The idea of Palestinian states was actually the creation of the United Nations trusteeship. In 1947, they brought up the first partition plan in which they divided Palestine between Israel and the Arab Palestinians. The Arabs refused. Israel accepted. Israel accepted the partition. The Arabs refused. in the midst of the crisis, Britain...
Why did they refuse? Why did Arabs refuse the partition?
First, the Arabs refused because the initial agreement between Britain and the Sheriff of Hijaz, that King Hussein, Ibn Hussein, was that if he supported them in this First World War against Turkey, he will be granted the whole of Palestine to become one kingdom under him. Unfortunately, that plan could not work. First, Hijaz was conquered by Ibn Saud in 1925 to become the present Saudi Arabia. And secondly, the partition plan, the mandate authority did not devolve on Britain alone. It was shared between Britain and France. So the idea of that original plan did not work. But the Arabs still believe that Palestine, that the idea of creating Israel cannot work. That all they know is that whole place should be Arab territory. And that was why they refused. And in the midst of that confusion, Britain, unable to solve the Jewish problem and also solve the Arab demand at the same time, decided to withdraw. And the very day Britain withdrew, Israel said, okay, since Britain has had withdrawn, let us now declare the United Nations area partition to us independent. That was how Israel declared themselves independent on the eve of British withdrawal. And the same day, the Arab nations invaded Palestine, Israel, to fight Israel. In that war, Israel
in what year? In what year?
1948. And that year, Israel, apart from being victorious, they had the land partitioned irregularly. For example, Egypt took over the present Gaza Strip and annexed it. Jordan took over East Jerusalem and present West Bank and annexed it. Syria took over Golan Heights and annexed it. They did not talk about even, you see, when Egypt annexed Gaza, Egypt did not talk about Palestinian state because they never believed in it. When Jordan annexed West Bank and East Jerusalem, Jordan did not talk of, think about Palestinian state. When Syria annexed Golan Heights, Syria did not talk about Palestinian state. So the idea of Palestinian state did not occur to them.
All right. So, but at the end of the day, so around what year now did that peace agreement reached between Israel, Jordan, Egypt to create Palestinian state? In what year did that emerge?
No, it went gradually because someone like Arafat, who was a descendant of Hussein and a cousin of the present king of Jordan royal family, as a student, began to develop Palestinian Student Association when he was a student in Egypt. And from that place, he started emerging. And in 1960s, he formed the Palestinian Organization, Palestinian Party. He was actually the people who now started advancing the idea of Palestinian states. And the idea continued until the 1967 Six-Day War, when Egypt, Syria, Jordan, Lebanon, and some Arabs, Iraq and Saudi Arabia, decided to deal with Israel finally, the Six-Day War. And it was during the Six-Day War that Israel now reconquered Golan Heights from Syria, reconquered East Jerusalem and West Bank, and reconquered Gaza Strip from them. And it was from that moment that the idea of creating, when the Arabs now knew that the possibility of orchestrating Israel could not work, they now decided to support they now decided to support the Palestinian state through Yasser Arafat, by helping them to go on this idea of civil disobedience and outright war against Israel.
Okay, so today we now have a Palestinian state following
Not
the
yet.
peace
You don't have a
treaty.
Palestinian state. No.
So what do we have?
They are not
What do we have?
State. We have a Palestinian authority under the sovereignty of the state of Israel. Gaza is under the sovereignty of state of Israel. They are quasi authorities under the state of Israel. Because security-wise, as far as what the Palestinian Authority has no army; they only have a police.
What is the idea of these two states? Who originated the idea of a two-state solution?
It is United Nations Partition of 1947. It's just United Nations to solve the problem. It was not the
what
idea
is
of
the nature? What is the nature of the peace agreement negotiated by Bill Clinton between Yasser Arafat and I think Shimon Peres?
You are talking of the Camp David Accord. Camp David Accord of 1978. You find out it started with Camp David Accord between Israel and Egypt. Then move on to Madrid Conference that included all of them. And then from Madrid Conference, come to Declaration of Principle 1993 between Israel and the Palestinians that gave room to the present Palestinian Authority. So it's a very long process.
Okay, what is the last internationally recognized United Nations resolution for the peace between the Israel and the Palestinians? What is the last internationally recognized resolution of the United Nations on that question?
The recognized one is just the Madrid Conference and the DOP, Declaration of Principle, that gave rise to this Palestinian Authority, and then and provided the space for further negotiations to look at the possibility of two-state solutions. But the impossibility of two-state solutions is very, very obvious. Standoff between the Jews and the Arabs. The Arabs don't believe that Israel should exist as a state, and Israel also believe that, as far as they are concerned, Palestine is their historical homeland. And in fact, most Christians believe that Israel have the right to own the land historically. Because as far as we're concerned, most of those things being planned, a lot of them are under West Bank and East Jerusalem. And these are areas even Christians will not want Arab to take control because of the obvious Arab hostility to Christianity and other religions. That's the position. And that can also lead to the present crisis that originated from the Sheikh Jarrah neighborhood conflict. That's the cause of the present problem we have that.
All right, so we now have today, Israel is now back on the news. What started this latest conflagration between the Palestinians and the Israelis? Well, do you have an idea?
Yeah,
because it will lead us to its implications for Nigerian security. So what started this latest conflagration today?
The simple thing is that the East Jerusalem, when in 1948, before then, the Israelis have been returning in bits from their exiles as a result of pogroms in Russia, Eastern Europe, and other areas. So they started coming back. And when they started, in the 19th century, they started coming back gradually under the Ottoman Turks. And when they came back, and when they returned, what they normally did was to buy land from Arabs. They didn't come to claim, oh, we own this land. No, Jews were buying lands from Arabs. So the issue is that Sheikh Jarrah, there is some about 100 Israeli, properties in the present Sheikh Jarrah, which is a suburb of East Jerusalem. The property were bought in 1876 from Arabs by Jews. And they were settled there and mixed with other people. But during the 1948 war, the independence war, a lot of those Israelis were driven out from East Jerusalem because of the conflict. So when they left, when they were driven out, they left their properties. And when they left their properties, Jordan, which now conquered the area, took that properties as enemy properties. When Israel now came back and reconquered those areas, East Jerusalem, in 1967, gradually Arabs, those properties have been distributed to Arabs. Israel did not want to force them, but gradually had to tell them, gradually had to make laws to tell them that Israelis have rights to claim the property, just the Nigerian abandoned property, Igbo abandoned property we have in River State. When they were abandoned, the Jews said, no, we have rights. Jews have right to claim the properties they abandoned in Sheikh Jarrah, now that they are on the same issue. They went to court. Court now ruled that Israel have right to occupy it. In fact, earlier, the Arabs.
What is okay? Let's move to Nigeria now because our time is running. What is Nigeria's position? What is Nigeria's official position with regards to this dispute between Israel and the Palestinians?
The present Nigerian government is being cautious. First, because of the state of the turn between the Israeli government and to some Arab nations, like Saudi Arabia, which is in a subdued, diplomatic relationship. I also know about Trump's Abraham Accord that led to establishment of diplomatic relations between Israel, Bahrain, and of course the UAE and other areas. So, and this year, nations that are against the world, and even Egypt is against that is the NASA. I mean the people fighting the Hamas, they're against them because these are the people exploiting terrorism to other wars. They serve as models to terrorists in the other areas. So Egypt don't even like them. And that is why most Arab nations are keeping quiet on the crisis because they want Hamas to be dealt with. So Nigeria is very, very, as long as Saudi Arabia is trading cautious, as long as Egypt is trading cautiously and other moderate Arab nations are trading cautiously, Nigeria is very, very calm and watchful. And that explains why Turkey, which is on the other side, have tried to cower Nigeria into joining the fray of anti-Israel. But Nigeria, because presently Nigeria is in a state of precipice, we can't be talking about the killing of 70 Palestinians, 70 Hamas in Gaza Strip, whereas daily we lose over 200. We have lost over 5,000 Nigerians from internal conflicts, from herdsmen, from Boko Haram, and from unknown gunmen. And no nation, United Nations, never moved a motion to curtail it. AU never moved a motion to curtail it. No, even ECOWAS never bothered to here. And just few people. I think there's
okay. I think in the Middle East now, more than 200 people have died. Our listeners will want to know how many nations have condemned Israeli bombing in Gaza since last week. Have any nation condemned it, including Nigeria?
Well, I've not heard the Nigerian nation condemning it, condemning the carnage, but you can see the major people condemning it being Turkey, Pakistan, some Arab radical nations, like even Iraq was very cautious. Then Syria condemned it,
What about the
Syria
United
has
States?
been on subdued.
Have the United States condemned Israel?
United States cannot even condemn. United States supports it and have been blocking any resolution of condemnation at the Security Council because Hamas are the aggressors. Israel is just on the defense and they continue hammering. Look, Israel has right to defend itself. And remember very, very carefully that never supported the state of Israel. They never supported the peace accord. And if you look at their 1987 declaration, they said that their mission is jihad, to obliterate Israel. Even when in 2007 they decided to review, they said that they could accept Palestinian state, but only on the temporary basis until Israel is obliterated.
But what do you have to say about there have been global demonstrations by citizens against Israeli bombing of Gaza, including in the UK, France, the United States. People have been demonstrating against the Israeli bombing of Gaza.
Yes, I say that as hypocritical because first
Why?
It shows that we are not valid. We blacks are not valid. How many people have demonstrated against? You are talking of 200 being killed. The other time, in 2007, Benue State alone buried more than 200.
But that is different. It is not another country bombing. No, that is different because it is not another country bombing Nigeria or killing Nigerians. It's where Nigeria's domestic criminal terrorist issues. It doesn't involve another country. So why should the United Nations intervene?
Yeah. What was? Yes. First of all, it's because of the power of propaganda. Those who are anti-Jews, in essence, there must be equity in every action you take. Those who seek justice must come with equity. Those who seek equity must come with clean hands.
What about Nigerians? Have there been demonstrations? Have there been demonstrations in Nigeria against Israeli bombing of Gaza?
Unlike before, if it were before, there should have been demonstrations against the Igbo people burning.
Not Igbo. I'm not talking about Igbo. Have there been demonstrations against? Now, I'm not talking about Igbo. I'm talking about, have there been demonstrations against Israeli bombing of Palestine? Peaceful demonstrations in Nigeria.
I think all I need is that the Shias, the Islamic of the Shias, did some few comments, flat, not massive demonstration as before, because the nation is tense. Maybe those people who should have led the demonstrations are now the bandits, are now part of the Boko Haram, and some of them are even hiding, scared of their own security. So no massive demonstration as it used to be. Otherwise,
but is there any tension? Is there any tension because we used to know that before, if something like this happened in Europe, there are often demonstrations in Nigeria against such happenings. So today, is there the risk? Is there the risk of security breakdown in Nigeria because of today's Middle East tension?
I don't think there will be such risk. No risk of law breaking down because the law in Nigeria are already broken down. So which other law with demonstration? The demonstration can only even give room for further action by the other people to seize the opportunity. So there's a state of conflict. There's a state of disorder in Nigeria. So which other demonstration, which other breakdown in law? When you cannot travel safely from Lagos to Abuja on road, from Benin to Lagos or by road. So which other state of disorder with demonstration? So
should Nigerians be worried? Should Nigerians be worried at the continuing war between Israel and Hamas in Palestine? Should Nigerians be worried if it continues?
We should not be worried. We should not be worried because first, it does not concern them. Second, I repeat from Israeli scientific development, states like Niger State, all those Kano states are reaping from Israeli agricultural expertise today. So they'll be very careful in talking out. But most Southerners don't know about it. Most Israeli projects are carried out in the north today. So they cannot talk, particularly when Saudi Arabia, Ibn Salman, who just phoned Netanyahu today for them to discuss, ceasefire ongoing. But most of the Arab nations, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, they want Hamas to be dealt with, because remember, Hamas started as a branch of the Muslim Brotherhood, the Egyptian-based Muslim Brotherhood, that brought Morsi to power, that made Sisi. So Hamas is a problem. It's only being sponsored by Qatar. Qatar is they can now talk of the hate who are just trying to fire few missiles. Not our business. We should face our internal business, because nobody has been worried about our internal problems. There hasn't been any comment from the West or the East. So why should we bother about what is happening in the Middle East? It's not our business. And
let's be clear on this point. Let's be clear on this point, Dr. Mwezigwe. The Hamas that controls Gaza, what countries or Islamic groups are affiliated to Hamas today?
No, you talk no affiliation, you talk of support.
Yes, because so that's what I mean, Hamas, support.
Remember,
yes, I mean support.
Yes, because yes, support. You have Iran supplying them with arms. You have Turkey supplying them with arms. Then you have Syria, Turkey, Iran. These are the major countries. And then
is Hamas still affiliated with the Muslim Brotherhood? Are they still cooperating? The Muslim Brotherhood based in Egypt?
It's still there.
Okay.
Yes,
in Nigeria, do we have any Islamic groups that are affiliated to the Egyptian-based Muslim Brotherhood?
The Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt. Well, I can read all of them. You see, when it comes to external aggression, that is interfaith conflict. The Muslims unite. You don't know who is a Shiite, you don't know who is a Sunni. Islamic Jihad also includes other people. The country, the religion that is actually the faction of Islam that actually affiliated or has strong sympathy for Hamas is the Shiites.
The Shiites
here in Nigeria, who are battling with the yes. Yes, they are the people whose leader is now has been in custody. They are the people who are, because these are the people who see Iran as their own godfather. You also see Turkey, you also see Pakistan, and then Syria, where the Alawites, which Bashir belongs, is all it's a branch of Shiites, which is majority Shiite and being led today by a Shiite prime minister. Is being very cautious because of the role being played by Saudi Arabia in the Gulf states.
So is it right to say that is it right to say that today's Middle East conflict, because it is limited to between Israel and Hamas and have not involved other Palestinians in the West Bank, will not have much impact on the Muslim world? Because
yes, let me tell you, the Hamas, Mahmoud Abbas led Palestinian, West Bank. It's also not comfortable with the Hamas, who want it to be removed because who did not like his peace, his state of peace with the state of Israel. There was supposed to be election, which Hamas has, was built to win, to be victorious because of the massive campaign of calumny against the Fatah party led by Mahmoud Abbas, until this crisis now erupted. So they want Hamas to be dealt with. Ismail Haniyeh and his group, Haniyeh, who is the prime minister and the leader in.
So finally, to conclude this discussion, is it now right to, because your network is not really in your network has not been very, very, very stable. Is it right to say that because it is the Shiites in Nigeria that have sympathy for Hamas, and therefore the problem of Hamas will not impact so much on Nigeria, because even in Nigeria, the Shiites are the minority Muslim group? Is it right to reach that conclusion?
Well, no, it's not my conclusion. That is one factor. The second factor is that Nigeria is already in a state of confusion. So you can't be carrying an elephant on your head and now be trying to pick goats and then be pursuing goats. It's impossible. The problem we have on our head today in Nigeria, both for Muslim bandits and other people, because demonstration could also lead to bandits striking. It could also bring infiltrate bandits. So those clerics, those Muslim clerics that should have supported the idea of such demonstrations are worried about their own safety. So they will not actually encourage it. That is the point. So Hamas, the Shia group is just secondary. But the point is that whenever it comes to the issue of Israel, there was no decision on the various sects in Islam. They joined in one to fight the Christians, they joined in one to fight the Jews. But the problem in Nigeria is such that it is impossible for them to leave their intractable security question and now be focusing for the mini problem of another state. That's the situation. That is what is giving Nigeria a semblance of Sudan look.
All right. At this point, we'll be happy to welcome comments from our listeners or any other person in this Zoom meeting. If you have any question or any comment to make, you are welcome to this channel. We will be rounding up. What do you think, Dr. Mwezibu, what do you think will be the final solution to the Middle East crisis? What position would you like Nigeria to take with regards to the Middle East crisis?
Nigeria should be neutral because Nigeria is a secular state. Most often, foreign interventions on the Middle East have been colored with Muslims supporting whatever, and you see Christians supporting Israel. So the point is that Nigeria should be Nigeria should stand neutral and let us face our problems. But none of the nations, none of them cares about our own problems. Let us face our own problems. Technically, Israel has contributed more in the development of modern state of Nigeria than the Arabs. So we should not reach our technological and scientific gains from Israel with the risk of Islamic sentimentality. That is what we are saying. So we should stand neutral, allow them to slug it out by them, and let us solve their problems. Let us solve our problems. We are talking about restructuring. We are talking about secession. We are talking of the evolution of powers. We are talking of domination by one group. We are talking of killings. We are talking of murderers invading us. We are talking of bandits from outside Nigeria invading us. We are talking of unknown comment reactive. So we have a lot of problems on our head. So let us face them first before looking at what.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mwezigwe, for having this discussion with us tonight. The topic we have been looking at is the Middle East, Israeli-Gaza conflict, implications for Nigerian security. And for the past 45 minutes, Dr. Mwezi will have been dealing with the historical and religious background to the Middle East crisis and its implications for Nigeria. So thank you, Dr. Mwezi, for being with us tonight. I will look forward to having you at another session. Dr. Mwezi, are you still there?
I'm still there.
Okay, we thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Mr. Hansen, are you raising up your hand on the issue when we have already closed on another matter? I called for comments. You are raising up your hand after I finish. What's your contribution, sir? Mr. Dagat, can you mute yourself?
Yes, I wanted to just ask a simple question. Is Hamas the governing body in Palestine, or there is a government outside Hamas? If there is Hamas the military arm of that government, or is a standalone organization? Yeah. So what is actually the role of Hamas in that particular?
Yes, when after the DOP, the Declaration of Principle, a government was constituted for what we call the Palestinian Authority, with the position of Prime Minister and legislative chamber, Hamas came as a political party. Hamas won the election as a political party, mainly in Gaza Strip. So in the last election, Hamas won majority. And so by that, the leader of Hamas in Gaza Strip, Ismail Haniyeh, became the prime minister of Palestinian Authority. But then there was conflict. Being the prime minister also meant that he became the maximum ruler of Gaza Strip. He is the only person who has an army, Qassam Brigade, which he uses as a terror group to war against Israel. The other Palestinian Authority, led by Fatah, led by the mainstream Fatah group, formerly led by Yasser Arafat, now under Mahmoud Abbas, has disbanded all their military wings. They now have a police running the West Bank. But Hamas still maintains a military wing called what they call Al-Qassam Brigade, which is what they now use to
well, the issue here is that there was an election organized for the Palestinians. Hamas was winning that election. And when the Israel and the United States saw that Hamas is going to win that election and they didn't want Hamas to win, so they stopped that election from being concluded. And Hamas was very unhappy. So what Hamas did is to now strike out from, because before, PLO was in charge of all, including the West Bank and Gaza. So because the election was stopped, Hamas was unhappy. They struck out, and because they have majority of control in Gaza, they now went into Gaza and captured Gaza and become the controlling government in that Gaza Strip, and left Mahmoud Abbas and his PLO to control the West Bank. So in the true essence of it is that the governing authority in Gaza is Hamas. It is the legitimate government governing Hamas with its own police and governmental system. So, sorry?
No, the election was not stopped. The election was actually conducted in 2006. You understand? Hamas won. The point is that there was a crisis because those Fatah group who did not vote Hamas were driven out from Gaza. Even the Christian Arabs were driven out from Gaza Strip. So it's not a question of nobody stopped the election. The election was conducted. The present Minister of Foreign Affairs for Palestinian Authority is of Hamas. Officially, the Prime Minister of Palestinian Authority is Ismail Haniyeh, the head of
Hamas,
Gaza.
The PLO, the Palestinian Authority, has no control in Gaza or
Abbas
in Gaza or West Bank.
The post of Prime Minister.
Wait, my question is in Gaza or West Bank?
The election is general.
Yes, after the election, what I mean is, yes. when Hamas struck out,
yes,
and went into Gaza and occupied the Gaza Strip, is it right to say that today is the Palestinian Authority still controlling Gaza, or is Gaza now under the complete control of Hamas?
Yes, officially, the jury, the Palestinian Authority is the jury controller of Gaza Strip, because they're under Palestinian Authority. Gaza is not a separate entity, but then de facto is under Hamas.
This is ugly fact that the jury.
No.
The fact is, in law, when you are de facto in control, you are the legitimate authority. We call it a grosso modo. Once you have, that is why. That is why if Nigerian military today organize the coup and take over the government, once they're able to establish legitimate control over the entire Nigeria, you can no longer question the legitimacy.
Yes, that's what they normally do.
There's no de jure or de facto. If you are in control, you are the government. That is the way it works.
No, it is not so. It's not so. Military comes in. For them to become the jury, they now do what? They now suspend the constitution, the existing constitution, and they enact their own decree, because they want to become the jury.
So my question is, I'm no longer recording. So my question is, who are governing Hamas today? Who are governing Gaza Strip today?
The people who are the Hamas. The Hamas are governing Gaza.
So that's the fact. I don't know whether Pamson, have the question been answered, Pamson?
No. Let us even take, for example, the Boko Haram now. In certain parts of Northeast, the Boko Haram are the de facto.
No, you don't compare Boko Haram. We don't compare Boko Haram with Hamas. They are two different things.
You are now talking of control. Boko Haram has a government. The other time they gave a salary package to people. Yes, they are two different things. To people. So they are the de facto control. They are the de facto control. But the jury, controller of those zones, are the Nigerian government and officials. So the point that the election that should have been conducted was conducted under Palestinian Authority, not Hamas authority. Gaza does not exist in isolation of Palestinian Authority. So that is the point.
So, Pamson, has your question been answered? Are you still here? Okay, he's left. Okay, thank you very much. We have concluded. If there is any other topic we will have tonight before we call it a day.
Yes.
So someone said we should discuss the problem that is in Nigeria and forget about Israel and Palestine. What do you think?
Well, I think we are supposed to have a topic earlier on.
No, we have finished the topic. We have finished this topic now. We have stopped recording. Yeah. So, yeah. But someone said we should focus on Nigeria's problem and forget about Hamas.
Yes, that is what and that is the essence of this our program, so that we face our own problem, because every time it normally takes us out. I think we don't know. We have a lot of problems in Nigeria, mainly security, mainly the north. But the most important thing for us to move forward, and let me state it now, the Christians and Muslims of the South should try to remove religion, separate religion from the Fulani, from Fulanization. That is the confusion. We must look, Nigeria is a secular state. We must look at equity based on ethnic balance, based on our historical relations, and not based on foreign religion. You're a Christian, you're a Muslim. By the time we realize that, the Osama will now be talking about reclaiming his lost kingdom from Kano, from Sokoto to Kano. By the time we do that, By the time we do that, the Benue man will not, the Benue State one will say, look, the elder of Benue State being North was an accidental delineation by the Europeans. We are historically part of the South and want to belong to Southern Governors Forum. By the time they do it, Nigeria will move.
Let's listen a little bit. Someone is raising up his hand, but because you raised this topic, let's listen to. Okay, let's listen. Okay, Pamstar said he's muted. Let me allow people to unmute themselves if you want to. So, Pamstar, you can unmute yourself now. But let's listen to this video and let's see with regards to what you are saying now regarding the Christians and if it's loud enough, please let me know. If you are hearing it, let me know. One second. Are you hearing it, Dr. Mwizigo? Are you hearing? Is it loud?
No, I'm not hearing it.
You're not. Is it okay? You're not hearing what he's saying.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me stop it there.
Not
Sorry.
loud.
Are you hearing it? Let me try again. If you cannot hearing it, then we stop it.
Some months ago, when it comes to our
You cannot hear it.
Okay, if you're not hearing it, let's stop it.
You can paraphrase what the bishop said.
Pamson.
Yes.
Did you hear the bishop?
I've watched that video before, but
okay.
On this channel, it's not clear. Nobody's hearing it.
Okay, if you have watched it before, can you paraphrase what the bishop is saying?
Simply, the Muslims, when they say they want to do anything, they get it done. They want Sharia, they get it done. Anything they want in this country, they get it done. But we Christians, whatever we said we want to get done, we will just be speaking and not get anything done. We will make noise about things that the Muslim claim they want to do. For instance, the law to bring all NGOs under the Registrar General of CAC. We make so much noise that it will not happen, but they made it happen. So that is just all he's saying. We, in our own end here, we just make too much noise and no action.
Yes, I think, I wanted to play it because of what Dr. Mweziwe said about separating Islam from the Fulani, because the bishop also, towards the end, said something like that, that's what he's saying, that even the Muslims are also suffering because they wanted to separate the Fulani from the Muslims in Nigeria. So do you share that? Do you share that ideology, Pamson?
Well, here in the north, the Muslims are first Muslims before they are their region or their ethnic group. That is the truth. They are first Muslims before they are Nigerians, before they are Katsina State indigenes, before they are whatever ethnic nationality, because there are different ethnic groups up the north that have been consumed by the Muslims. But they are first Muslim first. That is why their loyalty is to the caliphate. That is a fact. And then, because their loyalty is to the religion and the government is one and the same. If you go to Katsina, there is a whole village, a whole community that is Christians, but they can never be even a commissioner in the state. Talk much more of being part of governance at the higher at that level. So that is the true story of the North. Hello. Hello.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah. Okay.
So
Let's hear.
that's the true story.
Yeah. I got what you said. Let's ask whether Ikenna is, whether that is what he wanted to comment about. Ikenna, hear me, please.
Unmute yourself.
Unmute yourself, please. Yes,
hello?
Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's exactly what I want to say. Actually, that even that is now coming down to polling having in some part of Imo State recently now. Because of the new governor, there are some issues that came up within the cabinet recently now, and it's related to an incident. But I want to dwell much is on the high risk of challenges in the Imo State, precisely currently, like this night, yesterday, and throughout this last week and this week. And the more the days comes up, the more challenges it becomes for the youth in the state of Imo State. Currently now, a group of, this now just like information also, a group of military men in their uniforms is going almost house to picking up their boys. Like yesterday night, I saw a picture they sent to me that happens there and then in less than 5 minutes when the military Toyota van zoom up the environment. So those things, they will pack the boys in the state in different street by street, and they will zoom off. You don't know where they took those boys to. So those things is what is really happening gradually now in Imo State, precisely currently now. As I made a call not quite long, about 30 minutes ago now, the entire street and everywhere is shut down completely in Imo State, and everywhere, both road, the street, everywhere is filled with military personnel. So I was like, what is really going on in Imo State? There's no war situation that is on there.
Dr. Zigwe, what do you have to say about what Ikenna is saying about happening in Imo State at the moment? Or if there is any other person that have a similar experience? Dr. Zigwe, please.
Yes, the point is that, as I said, we have leadership problem. Our leaders are not proactive, and those in leadership think of today. They don't look back to history. Don't think about
Ikenna, we are no longer hearing you. Your network is no longer working.
Hello?
We are no longer hearing you. Your network is no longer. Ikenna, we are no longer hearing you. Your network is no longer working. So let's hear from Dr. Mwezigwe. We have heard what you said about what's happening in Imo State. Ikenna, please. So, Dr. Mwezigwe, you can continue.
Yeah, just yesterday, somebody called me, texted me, one of my friends on WhatsApp, told me if I knew any member of ESN that the government is going about picking them. They are picking them. If I knew, I should tell him so that they can. Well, such statements, you also have to be very, very cautious. Well, in actual sense, I don't have any link with ESN, and I don't have any direct link with IPOB. But even if I have, I will not. I don't even know how to link up. But I told him I don't know about it. But that could also be a way of finding out my position on the matter. My position on the matter. That's another one. But the point is that you have an insensitive leadership, and whenever I spoke about this in the past, they brand me as Igbo hater, as anti-Igbo leadership. But it's a leadership that energizes the people. If America could send a team of soldiers to rescue a citizen just in Niger, why can't our leaders be very conscious of the fact that their citizens are being killed in drones? The 2014 Israeli Hamas war was caused simply because 2 Israeli youths were murdered by the Hamas. That was how they went to war. So we want an Igbo leadership who will care about the leader, who will come and speak out and say, look, you are killing our youth, you are killing our future generations. Because as I told them, a single Igbo life is worth more than 20 Fulani lives. Reason, the Igbo young man is ambitious. He's a nation builder. He's a community builder. Even if he's a truck pusher today, tomorrow he could excel as a businessman and begin to construct roads, schools, and hospitals in his town. So we value our lives. And so the leaders should know this. So whenever
but what about the unknown gunmen who are attracting the security forces in the southeast? They are killing policemen, they are burning police stations.
The point is this. We should learn not to always blame the fox that chopped the chicken, but we should also blame the chicken for entering into the fox areas. What are the grievances of I don't know about, they are unknown to me as their name goes, as they are unknown to every other person.
Unknown gunmen.
But the issue is, why are they bringing people in? Why are they bringing people? Yes, they are not shooting people. They are not attacking other people like the bandits in the north, like the Fulani people. They are saying, look, police, you are not protecting us. And actually, police in Nigeria has never been a protector of the people, but an oppressor of the people. They are saying, police, you are not protecting us. So
does that justify the burning down of police stations and the killing of policemen in the southeast and the south?
Well, asking me that is a moral question which also can link. Was the government justified for keeping mute on the rampaging Fulani herdsmen in the south? Are they keeping mute and treating with golden gloves? With soft gloves. The rampaging, what do you call them? Bandits in the north. Even organizing payment of ransoms. So it is for them. These are signs that the situation, that the center can no longer hold, that things are falling apart. Things are falling apart. The center can no longer hold. It's not a question of sending people to get the youth. Not every youth, not every member, or not every young man is a member of the ESN. So picking people you saw on the street is wicked and does not actually align with the objective of a state. A state that wants peace, that fights for the protection of the citizens, when you criminalize everybody because of the acts of few young men. So I don't subscribe to that. It's the issue of asking me,
but
it's a moral question which cannot be answered in a solution of present crisis.
the Southeast governors had now formed the Ebubago group. So why wouldn't ESN allow Ebubago to function?
Who are the Ebubago can never work. Because first of all, the man who proposed the Ebubago, they are all the Southeast governors are grouped into two. You have the outright Fulani studios and agents, and have the coward ones who cannot talk for fear or being arraigned before the EFCC. Because that is a weapon. They place a Fulani there so that they can just give you instruction to go against anybody. The governors of Imo and Ebonyi State are pure Fulani agents. They are pure Fulani men, only in the robe of Igbo ethnicity. And these are, and especially the Ebonyi man who is so inordinately ambitious that he feels that by selling his people, he could make a president, which is impossible. First, he brought his younger brother, a retired army colonel, to be in charge of security outfits, security committee in the South. It could not work. Then he decided to bring Ebubago on. Then the Imo State man who came there by the act of the Supreme Court, he saw using intimidation. Then the Enugu State man is afraid of EFCC. The Anambra State man is afraid of EFCC. The Abia State man have been reminded that he knew how, he could understand how we save you from Supreme Court judgment. So you better cool down. Otherwise, we can bring Dr. Organ, to take you out. So they're just there afraid. That is the problem. So they cannot.
So what is the solution? What do you think? Someone is asking, what is the solution, that you propose?
The solution is simple. First, our people should stop going to church and stop contributing to church leaders. Because our people should, there must be first strike against religious organizations in this country. All the religious leaders, they are not speaking out, they are not doing anything. You can't be going to church and be thinking of heaven when your earthly lives are being jeopardized. So religious leaders are accomplices if they don't mobilize their people to move into the streets. The leaders too. So the only thing that will bring this nation can be brought to order within a moment. If the people troop out today on the streets, we are not walking, we are not going anywhere until things are put in order. But as long as we stay by the sideways, you laugh. The other time, Pastor Debo was calling for prayers. But during Jonathan, this was the same Pastor Debo that talked about 2 million march against Jonathan for insecurity. You could see the hypocrisy of religious leaders. A lot of them, okay, Mbaka now, from good luck to Jonathan, he had now known that Jonathan was not actually the bad luck, that it was the good luck he proposed that is bad luck. And he tried to change. And I could see people clapping for him, for changing. These are hypocrites. So our major problem in South is religion. As Amato said that if the conquest of a colonization of our land could be accepted, but when we are colonized spiritually and mentally, that is the worst colonization. And that is, so we must liberate ourselves spiritually and morally and mentally. And people should come out en masse and protest these killings. Protests are there, and let me tell you, no sitting government will ever support the disintegration of his government. The so-called constitutional amendment will never work. The so-called restructuring will never work under this government.
So what will work then? So what will work?
We need, what people should be talking about that is we need an interim government.
But how can that happen? How can a sitting government allow an interim government to take over?
When the people decide when the people decide to come into the streets and say enough of this insecurity, even the policemen who are being killed are not happy of the situation. The policemen also go to the market, they are being killed. The customers are not happy, they are being killed. The military men who are there fighting in Sambisa forest, being killed, being staged, being set up and being killed by Boko Haram, are not happy. But because of the calling, because of their oath of office, there was nothing they can do. They need the people to come and speak on their behalf. So the National Assembly, the Southern National Assembly, members of National Assembly should withdraw and allow to withdraw and allow Lawan to manage the Senate. Allow Benjamin Miela or whatever, who is Tinubu's to his only positions in protecting Tinubu for presidency, not interested in what is happening to his southern brothers. They had it under the cloak of Islamism to bring Tinubu to power. These people should be allowed, let them run. By the time the southern members of the House of Rep and Senate, the middle betters joined, pulled out of National Assembly. Let us see how they can run. And the people who elected them can give them ultimatum to do that. So once we are ready, Ninas can be doing their yes, Ninas has a good proposal, but it has to be matched with action. It has to be matched with action. These people have to be forced to bring up change under tense situation, not under by pleading and the point that they occupy us with conflict. You see, every time you see trailer loads of foreign youths trooping into the south, and that is the essence of jihad. That was what Usman Danfodio used to conquer the north. You know, most of the Hausa kingdoms. This was what he used by infiltration. They're infiltrating us, and we are sleeping, playing, laughing, talking. When it started in Kaduna, there was Zango Kataf area where the Qatar people revolted against the domination. Zongo people who are immigrants trying to dominate them, and some leaders like Zamani Lekwot was sentenced to death. It was an Igbo man or Kanibo that was head of the tribunal that sentenced him to death. They will always use an Igbo man. Yeah. When it started in Plateau, and the Plateau and Darie, who is now serving prison because he's serving prison sentence, not because he's the only he was the only corrupt governor, but because he told the people react against this group, and they dealt with this one. During his time, there was semblance of peace, and then what Obasanjo did was to declare state of emergency. Yeah. And today the Fulani colluded to put him in prison. Darie. Then also the former governor of Taraba State said no, and mobilized his people, Jukun and other people, to counter these people. Today he's serving prison sentence, governor in Yemen, Reverend Yemen. He's serving prison sentence for corruption. Does it mean these are the only two corrupt governors in northern Nigeria? How many Muslims are serving such sentences today? These are the moral questions we have to ask ourselves. It's not by sitting back. When these things were happening, we are relaxing. We are thinking of meeting the Fulani for us to be president. When Benue State was bleeding, we were just relaxing. When Nasarawa State was bleeding, we were relaxing. Now it has come to us. How do we do it? So we're in a state of confusion. And the only thing that can save us, the Yoruba have said it earlier, that the Yoruba people are pesiters more than the Igbo, and they will tell me I'm a Yoruba apologist or whatever, and I don't care because I talk from historical facts as a professional historian. If you want to challenge me, write, and challenge me by writing. You see, that's the point. Today, the Yoruba have become proactive. It's not even the OPC, it's not even the Amoteku. But it's from nowhere. It's not the Igbo.
But Nnamdi, if you are talking of Igbo, Nnamdi kind of started before Igbo now.
No. Listen. Nnamdi Kanu's own is different from Igbo. Nnamdi Kanu started from a confused state of affairs, inherited from Wazulike, Biafra. He was not talking about Igbo nationalism. He was talking about Biafran nationalism, which is amorphous because of ethnic conflict of interest. And then Nnamdi Kanu also went about creating empires, drawing empires on maps. Drawing a map of empires, Benue State, Delta, and other people without even consultation. And then if you go into the organization of IPOB, which I'm privileged to be, you find that They are not well organized. They're autocratic. They don't even talk. They even talk about the ideological corrupt because you talk of Judaization. Once you are a member of IPOB, you become a Hebrew automatically. And when you come there, you are made to swear that you will die. That is not revolution. So there is problem. The framework of IPOB cannot give room for massive support because it's autocratic. It's just an extension of Boko Haram.
So how is Igbo's own different from Nnamdi own?
Igbo own is a mass movement, spontaneous. Remember the whole Northerners, the whole Nigeria were focusing on Gani Adams being made the IRA on Akakanfo. I should lead the process. But yes, it's something when you start enjoying life. Because I was with OPC for 10 years, and Gani Adams was the main militant, militant man of the OPC, strong man of the OPC. But as soon as money started flowing and he became a chief, the issue of risking his life, the industry of militancy there reduced. And from nowhere, somebody just woke up. Some people, I see people mobilizing. I know how the Yoruba people work. They work with respect. Have you had Igboho insult somebody? The only person he criticized was the Ooni of Ife. And other people criticized the Ooni of Ife for visiting Abuja, for visiting presidency without consultation. And they settled. The Nnamdi Kanu's own is that once Nnamdi Kanu agrees on something, there's no going back. He doesn't take advice. I remember when he was released in prison, I was consulted by some Igbo leaders, about 3 Igbo leaders who told me to, who asked me to give them the advice for Nnamdi Kanu, that they told me Nnamdi Kanu was visiting them on each day, normally in the night, after he released. And I told them, the idea is that if you keep cool, not in arts, let us use the occasion to build bridges with ethnic groups. You can't be talking to Biafra. You won't be talking to Biafra. The Southern minorities will not, if you understand why the Aburi Accords collapsed, if you understand why the history of COR, state movement in the South, if you understand why Aziboro revolted against Abiru, then you cannot talk of Biafra without deeper consultation. Because these are historical, tourisms which cannot be washed away. Let us build bridges and coordinate. But he looked around, he saw mainly Okada people say, oh, Biafra. Oh, people who do not even know the history of Biafra Civil War. Following, he felt that he's in control and voted against it. Even saying that some Biafran, someone like Dr. Dr. Ikedife, who were Biafran elders, who were ready to die, who were not afraid of the government. He declared them suspended and expelled. And there was a fashion. I knew when he was in prison, I was one of those nominated by federal government. If you go to the Biafran internet, I was one of those nominated by federal government with Atomanko, later Atomanko, and some few other people to negotiate with the federal government on behalf of. I said I was not ready to be part of it so long as Nnamdi Kanu was in prison. Is that on the Biafran website? I was one of the nominated by federal. I said no, I can't. I will not be part of it. Because he was in prison. But he did not hear. He kicked off everything. The Yoruba people, I knew how they operated. Today, most of the OPCs were, when OPC was cooling down, what they did was allocate the empower OPC. How did they empower the OPC? First of all, they gave them some contracts secretly, nobody knew. Secondly, they gave them even a security contract that even in Lagos today, most streets are manned by OPC. That's why there's limited crime in Lagos. They are manned. Most streets in Lagos are manned by OPC security people. The people who pay, they use it to empower their people. This is Yoruba strategy. And when they're giving, you cannot even pin down who is giving Igbo. Every time Igbo continue to have millions. Who are the people giving him? That is the diplomatic tact the Yoruba people applies. But IPOB is not ready to apply the same. Nnamdi Kanu naturally is autocratic. He already sees himself as the president of Biafra. Hero worship. I know the Igbo mentality, our individualism. My people say, instead for me to be crawling on the street begging, let me go hungry and die. That is Igbo man for you. And that is why you see, the only place you have the least beggars in Nigeria are the Igbo people. Among the Igbo people, because every man wants to do so. Even the one-legged man will like to do something. Even the blind man, even if he wants to beg, he will try to do it by music, releasing records. So fair for them.
So who will now call on Nnamdi Kanu to order?
Well, it is like telling us who can call a stray lion to order. The point is that yes. The point is that the point is that we need synergy. And Nnamdi Kanu should realize that this idea of Biafra is not acceptable to other people. Take the Biafran as a spiritual fight. As a spiritual fight, as a fight against mental domination. Look at it from the spirituality and mental as a nationalist part, and not on the basis of state creation. As an idea, as you see Pan-Africanism, when you see it, and let the events, unfolding events decide which part to follow. You don't just jump in and say, well, Benue State is not part of Biafra. Midwest Igbo is part of Biafra. My people were never part of Biafra. We were never part of Biafra. We are part of the Western region. And we can't say because we're Igbo now, we will not follow you because you are Biafra. We fought the civil war out of necessity of survival. We fought with out of ethnic identity and necessity of survival. And I continue saying, not every Biafran is Igbo, and not all Igbo people are Biafrans. Until I said that, then there will be synergy.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Moizi. We will round up tonight. We've had this discussion now. Thank you, as always, for being with us.
Yeah.
And hopefully, we'll have another topic that have your expertise, and you will graciously agree to be our guest. On Saturday, we are having a discussion, another expose on the inside story of Boko Haram, Nigeria's first terrorist organization. I have a gentleman who received a Ford Foundation sponsorship, an international investigative reporting organization or something like that, to go inside Boko Haram, to be with them, to investigate them, to find out what motivates them, to find out the modus operandi, how far they have penetrated northern Nigeria. So I'll have him as a guest on Saturday by 8 p.m. He has written a book, written a lot of reports on Boko Haram and their strategy and how far they have gone. So let's be here on Saturday by 8 p.m. to find out how deeply had Boko Haram penetrated Nigeria's structure and what Nigeria should do to curb its expansionist tendency, not only in Nigeria, but the entire Sahel region. I welcome all of you on Saturday by 8 p.m. Thank you very much. And have a good evening.